than expected rise in inflation, up to a 3-year high. The Consumer Prices Index has increased to 5.2%. It's mainly driven by soaring energy bills, which are more than 18% higher than a year ago. But it's better news for people getting state pensions or benefits. This month's inflation figures are used to calculate next year's increases. Well, let's find out how the increase in the cost of living is affecting some people across the country. I'm joined by David Balfour, an IT support contractor from Scotland, who joins us from our Edinburgh studio. Chris Brindle is a finance professional from Lancashire, who's in our studio in Blackburn, and Owen Ellis is a retired council worker from East London, who's in our Central London studio. Thank you all very much for joining us. Let's go to you first of all, David Balfour. Just tell us how inflation is affecting you.
Well, the price of fuel keeps going up and up all the time. So it makes it very difficult for myself to get to work. It costs a lot of money to get to work. Even running stuff through the business, a lot of contracts are down south, and I just can't afford to take the contracts now.
So it's actually stopping you taking work because you can't afford to drive to the work?
Yeah, the rates have fallen significantly over the last few years, and now the price of fuel's that high. It's just not worthwhile taking the contracts.
So are you experiencing a double whammy then of reduced income and increasing inflation?
Yeah.
And what are you having to cut as a result? What impact is it having on your lifestyle?
Well, basically what I've had to do is take a full-time job with one of the local councils to make ends meet at the moment, and kind of put the company on hold. We're basically having to cut out lots of stuff. You can't go anywhere unless it's necessary. You've got to try and watch what you're doing with the heating costs and electricity costs.
So, I mean, obviously, as you say, you've now got another full-time job that's giving you an income. But what sort of specific examples would you look at as being really indicative to you of the change in lifestyle that you're experiencing at the moment?
Well, you can't go out as much, obviously. Can't go out and socialise. Doing repairs to the house, you've got to kind of budget for that and save up for things like that. Also, basically the fuel bills, you've got to try and keep the fuel bills down. Just sort of stay in a couple of rooms sort of thing and not have the heating on all the time.
All right, let's bring in Chris Brindle, who's a finance professional joining us from Blackburn. Really, same questions to you, Chris. Just tell us, first of all, the impact that inflation is having on your life.
Well, pretty much the same as your previous caller. I cover about 21,000 miles a year in my car, which is significant with the increase in fuel. What I actually elected to do was buy a cheaper, smaller car. I save around 25% on my fuel bill, cheaper road tax, cheaper insurance and so on. It's just one of those things that you've got to do. So
you're getting round the issues by being savvy about trying to cut your costs. Have you managed to really mitigate the impact of inflation as a result of that, or are you still having to make inroads into your spending?
No, not at all. One of the other things that I did was look at my energy contract and went on the comparison websites, and I actually looked at alternative providers and then challenged my existing provider as to why their prices were more expensive than their competitors by several £100s. And I actually managed to save that money with my existing provider. So although the costs are going up, I think it's important to remember if you can challenge your existing provider, you may be able to save some money.
And what about your income? Has your income been hit at all by the recession and slowdown?
It hasn't, no. It's just my expenses. Obviously, fuel was a big cost, but as I say, I got around that by buying a smaller, more economical car. So in real terms, it hasn't gone up. The situation may alter, though, because obviously I can't change my car again or change my tariff provider. But with the energy, what I've done is I've fixed it for a year, so I know exactly what the cost is going to be over the next year. So it's a case of budgeting, really.
All right, let's bring in Owen Ellis, who's actually a retired council worker, describing himself as a pensioner. You've got a state pension and 2 private pensions. Owen, just tell us how you're getting on financially at the moment.
Well, as the last speaker said, it's okay if you've got the availability of changing and changing your car, which is money-wise. But when you're talking about elderly people over the age of 65, their savings have diminished over the last 5 years. more so than now. And the point is that they're not going to get any better. Next year's going to be probably worse than it is now. There is no way that these utility firms, such as the gas and electricity, with their 18% increase, together with the 21% VAT, is actually crippling elderly people. I work part-time for Age UK, and it is the areas that we're looking at is something to do with eat and heat. Now, when it comes down to their pensions, they've got to decide whether they actually buy food to keep themselves alive, or they keep themselves warm and keep themselves alive again. And the vast amount of people are not getting that system going for them. They're just losing out.
And these decisions that you're having to take, are you having to take very hard decisions in how you spend your money?
Well, yes, areas which unfortunately I lost my wife 4 years ago, but because of that now, I actually get a less pension than I would have done if she was alive. They penalise me straight away by taking £50 off of my pension. And they're saying, well, that's because you was getting a married couple's allowance. Now, the government has done nothing for the elderly people in that respect, and they're turning around and saying that next year you're going to get a £5.40 increase based on what the actual price is now. But that's not going to be good enough for people when it comes down to it. Could I give you one example? There's an old lady that I deal with now. 5 years ago, she's got no heating in her place except for a back boiler which is operated by coal. She paid £10 a bag. She bought 8 bags every time she had to use it. This time, she's had to pay £160 for 8 bags of coal. That's because the inflation and with the prices have gone up, she just can't afford it. It's absolutely ridiculous that the government is doing nothing for 11 million, and they are all potential voters. 11 million old age pensions over the age of 65. We're not getting any benefit from this government, and I'm sorry to say, not even the last government.
All right, we appreciate you all joining us and describing your financial experiences with inflation so high to us. It's Owen Ellis, Chris Brindle and David Balfour. Thank you all very much.